And we're back with our look at 50 horror classics. Our first in this particular block is Bloodlust. Ooh. They actually remade this film later as The Most Dangerous Game, but I could recognize it easily. It's basically a tamer version of it. Some vacationers, two young couples, have to contend with a drunk guide and decide to do a bit of impromptu treasure hunting on one of the islands. But as they go to shore in the small four-person vessel that their main boat keeps around for safety's sake, the drunk wakes up for 5 seconds, imploring them not to go, but they can't hear him over the engine. So they do a little exploring, not seeing someone taking their boat, and eventually their fun is interrupted when one of them falls into a tiger trap, basically a pit in the ground, and gets knocked out. And then we meet the big game hunter, who I'm going to call Hunter. And he takes them to his house, which was basically taken over from a previous tenant. And he introduces his wife, and they meet another drunk. But we soon find out that the wife and the drunk are not what they seem. And then, when they make plans to leave and swim to one of the boats that the hunter has sequestered in a secret cove, things don't go well. But first, while exploring the house against the wishes of the hunter, they find out the terrible truth of the guy. Well, two of them do, while the other two are explained by the not wife and not drunk. Turns out the guy used to be a sniper in World War I, possibly, considering the year. He used to be a school teacher, I think. Well, either way, he used to be a peaceful person, but he was pressed into service to be a sniper. And slowly but surely, he got a taste for blood. The titular bloodlust. And so, after the war, he found this island, got followers, and after hunting big game in other parts of the world, he started going after the most dangerous prey of all: humans. And after finding the trophy prep room, the young couples also see the trophies themselves, locked in their last moments before they died. And unfortunately, we find out what happened to the not wife and not drunk when they made their break for it. Earlier, we saw the hunter go after them with a spear, and yeah, they didn't make it. They're trophies now. So, the hunter proposes a game. He sends the two boys and the guide, who was in on it the whole time, but was not supposed to do any side work, i.e. being that guide. So he's part of the game too. And he gets an unloaded gun, and they have to find ammo to try and kill the hunter before the hunter kills them. And the hunter only gives himself one arrow for his crossbow to use on each guy. And eventually, the trio of guys find one bullet. So one arrow for each of them, and one bullet for the hunter. Only the guide isn't interested in trying to stop the hunter. He goes off on his own, since he has the gun and the bullet. And he does get the drop on the hunter. Only, click! The hunter disabled the firing pin of the revolver. So, the game is kind of rigged. Despite there being some rules. For one thing, they're only supposed to be convicts on the island. And now there's not. Well, there is, but we'll get to that. So, the guide begs for a chance to keep working for the hunter, and he considers, and then puts a crossbow bolt in the guy's guts. Yikes. So, now the hunt is on for the two guys. Only the henchman who is working with the hunter to help track the people, he not only gives their position away, but also gets lost on an island he should know very well. So, exasperated, the hunter lets the guy fall into a leech-infested quagmire and callously lets him drown / get exsanguinated by the leeches. Meanwhile, the ladies, who, let's just say, are going to stay on the island as companions of the hunter. I'll leave in what capacity to your imagination. They managed to break loose by feigning a broken vase, only the vase actually broke a window, allowing them to escape. They hook back up with the guys, and they try to get some weapons. They find guns, but unfortunately they don't have enough time to ransack the hunter's study to find the ammo crates. And so, after the hunter callously kills a convict who's been driven insane and left wandering the island, after he encountered the quartet and retrieves his crossbow bolt, by the way, he then corners the quartet in the trophy room, which is actually so well designed that it works as an echo chamber, so he can find victims even in the dark. Only before he has a chance to kill the quartet once and for all, the henchman, who was basically left for dead, turns out he saved himself and excuse me, he goes after the hunter, even shrugging off bullets, and pins the hunter to a wall of spikes. And so the quartet is saved. All the henchmen are killed eventually. The henchman who killed the hunter succumbs to his wounds, and the hunter, he becomes a trophy in his own Galleria. The end. Our next film is a semi-supernatural murder mystery called Amazing Mr. X. This woman who lost her husband swears she can hear him whispering her name as the wind blows and the ocean roars. And the quiet utterances of Christine, Christine. The name's woman is Christine. Is very spine-tingling. That gets you. She literally bumps into a psychic who is named Alexa, but who's a guy. And he seems to know a lot of weird things. And even suggests a seance in order to get in contact with the dead husband. Well, it turns out he's a real charlatan. And everybody can see it but Christine. This guy who proposed marriage to her after 2 years of her being single. The potential boyfriend of Christine's sister, who herself is captivated by Alexa eventually. And we, the audience, find out that the reason Alexa knows so much is because he's got a henchwoman, none other than the maid of Miss Christine. Now, eventually, after some weird phenomena happens, like pictures and rings change into different pictures and rings, and Christine's wedding dress attacks her without someone being inside it. And eventually, she holds the seance with her sister and the psychic. Only we see how he does it. Special levers that allow him to move his restraint, because he insists on being restrained to make it look like he's not actually doing anything. Only he really is. He's an escape artist. He uses his rigged chair to get into a secret room to control a lot of smoke and mirrors. And the seance scene is very well done. There's music and hands and faces. And this looks very entertaining, but the girls think it's all real. Eventually, the two guys I mentioned earlier show up and try to reveal the psychic as a fake. Only the girls aren't convinced. Just before they find one of the secret levers, that's when the girls suggest they continue the seance with everyone. Only, even though Alexa's not able to do anything, stuff starts happening. We even see an apparition of the husband in the window. When the guys go looking for it, and the ladies decide to just leave, that's when the husband reveals himself to still be alive, having faked his death and killed his previous wife in order to get her money. And so, he forces Alexa into a scheme. Marry the sister and facilitate Christine's death, so then the sister will inherit all the money, and the husband will inherit the money after the sister gets killed. And while Harold, the guy, the husband, tries to facilitate his wife's demise with some drugged milk and a jaunt through some cliffs overlooking the beach, Alexa just can't go through with it, even though the sister is really into him and even is aggressively flirting with him. But eventually, while browbeating Alexa, Harold reveals himself to the sister, and Alexa is shot in the process, but manages to take down Harold. And he's not killed outright, but severely wounded. And potentially his final act in the film and life is to release his pet raven, who is a bit of a faithful companion, allowing it to fly free once again and be a wild animal. Now this one, The Last Woman on Earth, was sort of remade as Temptation Island, with Billy Zane as one of the cast. And honestly, they're pretty evenly decent. The remake has a little more, shall we say, adult content, but things pretty much play out the same, except for how the characters are isolated. In the remake, they're just shipwrecked, and eventually help comes. But in this version, it's a husband and wife who are kind of in a rut. The wife feels neglected and overshadowed, while the husband likes to spend all their money on gambling. They're off the coast of Mexico gambling on rooster fights. And the husband's, I think, lawyer, or basically partner in crime, because he's doing some illegal stuff as well. He's there too, and while they're all scuba diving in some beautiful underwater footage, including a face-off against a manta ray, only the manta ray wasn't actually hurting anyone, so that's an oops. When they surface, they find they can't breathe properly unless they use their oxygen from the scuba. And so they use it to make it to some thick jungle where the plants have been working overtime to produce oxygen. So eventually they can ditch the air tanks, and they find out that something has destroyed the oxygen in that particular area, maybe even farther afield. Now, I'd like to think maybe Godzilla attacked and someone used the oxygen destroyer after somehow reverse engineering it from witness accounts, and someone screwed it up, and it not only got Godzilla, it got everybody. But anyway, it's never truly explained how the oxygen was destroyed, but eventually it comes back. Not soon enough to save a bunch of people in town, including children, which is kind of horrible. But the trio adjusts to this new life, fishing and locating animals that may have survived, that were eggs while the oxygen destruction was happening, finally hatching. Only things aren't so rosy. Earlier in the film, the wife was flirting with the partner, and she ramps up her flirting, and the husband doesn't really like it. And eventually, after the wife and the partner play house a little, and the husband comes home and sees them being a little too chummy, he takes the partner on a fishing trip where they air their dirty laundry, and it comes to blows. Eventually they make it back to shore, where the husband clocks the partner with a rock right next to his right eye. And it doesn't kill him, but it does some damage we'll see later. Eventually, the husband orders the partner to leave. Not take the boat, as they were planning to do, but take a car and go inland. Now, this puts a damper on the plans of the partner and the wife, who plan to go off together. So, they do something a bit desperate. Now, there are two working vehicles, and as the partner gets set to leave, he steals the keys out of one of them and jumps in along with the wife to the other vehicle. And the husband has to hotwire the one vehicle in order to chase them. Eventually, they make it to a church while the wife waits in the church. The partner gets chased around by the husband, and they come to blows again. And eventually, all three converge on the church, but there's something wrong with the eyes of the partner. Apparently, that damage to his face proved a little more damaging than we thought. And he rants about how social order and religion and money and all that is irrelevant before he dies in the wife's arms, leaving her to go off with the husband, who asks that she pick the place they're going to live, because he hadn't given her a lot of autonomy before. So now maybe he's learned his lesson. And finally, we come to the Bat. Vincent Price plays a doctor/lawyer who is told by the owner of a bank that he stole $1 million in certificates, and he's going to launder the money with cash he has at his house stashed in a secret room. And the plan is for him to fake his death and pin it on this guy who works at his bank. And I think the guy is also a newlywed. So that's definitely evidence that this guy is not to be liked. And he even, at gunpoint, forces Price's character to help him. Only Price has set things in motion to turn the tables on him. He sets the woods around their cabin on fire. They're in the woods. And shoots the guy. So he also works with bats to, I don't know, maybe cure rabies permanently. Sets off to get the money, apparently. Meanwhile, we come to the banker's house, where Agnes Moorehead of Bewitched fame, she played the mother-in-law of the couple, the witchy mother-in-law. Witchy in the sense that she had magic. And also the semi-mute woman who has to deal with tiny aliens in that one Twilight Zone episode. She plays a mystery writer who is using the house for inspiration. Meanwhile, there's been a rash of serial killings by a faceless, clawed figure known only as the Bat. Not the Batman, but the Bat. I wonder if Bruce Wayne can sue. Anywho, eventually the Bat makes his way to the house and tries to infiltrate it, but Agnes and one of her friends who's staying with her catch him in the act and call the police. Now they come and search the house, but they can't find anyone. Eventually, Agnes gets a group of people to stay with her and keep watch. Unfortunately, the Bat's getting desperate, and when one of the ladies catches him in the act of trying to find the secret room where the money is, he kills her. And I think she was the wife of the newlywed who got pinned for the murder. He also kills the nephew of the banker, who was trying to find blueprints to the house in order to locate the secret room. And finally, it all culminates in someone drugging the police officer who was ordered to stay and keep watch. And Agnes locates the secret room without destroying part of the wall. Only when she gets sealed inside, she quickly runs out of breath. Apparently the place is airtight and has an air pump. But eventually, the police officer finally wakes up, and along with the ladies, finds out how to work the room. There's a control behind some blueprints posted on a wall. But there's no way to get into the safe that's in the room, so they set a trap. They trick the bat into thinking he's diverted their attention by setting the garage on fire. Wow. And when the bat comes to try and open the safe, the police officer opens the room up and then opens fire on the bat. Unfortunately, the bat's got his own gun and shoots the officer and plans to shoot the ladies, only the guy who got pinned for the, well, not the murder, but the theft of the money in the first place, he comes back after getting exonerated temporarily and shoots the bat in the back. And it's revealed that he was the police chief, basically. And so the money is recovered, and Agnes finishes her book while dictating to a friend of hers to write it. And she practically addresses the audience that the one crime you can't cover up is murder. And so that brings this block of horror classics to an end, when next we meet the final block in our look at 50 horror classics, which contain two of Vincent Price's greatest works. Oh, and in case you're wondering, Price's character gets killed by the bat when he tries to pin the crimes on Price's character. I forgot to mention that. So long, and I'll try not to forget anything this time.